Hello everyone, my name is Zachary O'Shea and this is Box of Teeth. Every October for the last few years I've shared a homebrew Dungeons & Dragons monster each and every day, and today is no different. So here is your October Monster a Day for October 17th, 2023. Here in week 3, what I'm doing is sharing named Fey Knights that work for the Waning Court. The Waning Court is a homebrewed group of Dark Fae that I use for a very horror-themed Dungeons & Dragons campaign. They are nightmarish, they have a certain autumn feel to them, they cover the gamut of folk horror, body horror, and cosmic horror. The reason I'm doing this is, one, I get to flesh out personalities with you to kind of demonstrate how the Waning Court operates with its different facets within it. And two, it really will help fledgling storytellers, game masters, dungeon masters, whatever you call yourself, kind of think about how to come up with a personality for a monster they want to turn into an antagonist without necessarily making it a legendary creature, but it's still someone that the players are going to remember for a long time, whether they defeat them or not. Going over a knight that is part of the Order of Harbinger's Roar, which is the knightly order that's dedicated to the Waning Prince of Thunder, the Prince of Omens, beloved by banshees. So, we're going to talk about the Barrow Guest. Now, before I do that, I want to go over just very quickly, again, the abilities that all Waning Knights have. They are usually CR 10, but all the ones this week are CR 11 because they're a little bit more spicy, as it were. They do have damage resistance to weapons that are not magical or silver, as well as usually lightning and thunder resistance. They do have Aura of Arrogance, so when they're missed with an attack, that attacker has disadvantage on further attacks with them until end of round. They do have Magic Resistance. They do usually have Ephemeral Mien, which allows them to kind of walk through difficult terrain without a problem because they're otherworldly, alien, and strange, and they can Misty Step once per day, but then their speed becomes 0 until end of turn. They do all have, for the most part, a Throne Shard Sword, which is crafted from the shards of the King Under Amber's throne. And they do have usually a Deadwood Lance, and they do have Prideful Stride, which is the ability to make a dash action after they've reduced a creature to 0 hit points without provoking an opportunity attack. Now, the Barrow Guest himself is always swathed in a robe of pallid ectoplasm and studded leather armor crafted from ghastly hide. He is often mistaken for a boisterous undead just because of his nature and the company that he keeps. Yet he is as substantial as any other Fey Knight most of the time. Trained by the banshees of the Prince of Omens court, the Barrow Guest has become an emissary to various undead horrors that his lord wishes to ally with on the material plane. In truth, however, the Barrow Guest loathes the restless dead. He finds them as arrogant and pathetic as mortals that they used to be, and they're just as easy to discard when he is done with them. He hides this most of the time, unless one of them tries to stab him in the back first. Then his fury is relentless and the destruction he brings to these undead is absolute. He has become adept at moving through the places of the dead, and it is hard for any opponent to pin him down for long. The Barrow Guest, as a side note, also suffers unrequited love for the nefarious Waning Weeper known as Lady Slough, who we covered last week. The two of them get along well enough when they meet, but he is too shy to make a move, and Lady Slough is too busy throwing lavish parties to notice his seething affection. Let's go ahead and take a look at his statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Again, he is CR 11 because he works for the Prince of Thunder in the Waning Court. He has damage immunity to thunder, but also necrotic because he works with undead all the time. He does have Death Bond, so he is immune to anything that would reduce his hit point maximum, as well as charm and fear-based effects that come from any undead creature. He does have innate spellcasting, like the rest of his knightly order, where he can cast Phantom Steed, Shatter, Thunderclap, and Thunder Wave. He does have Tomb Stride. As you can tell, this is a skill that I really like, because lots of my creatures have this Dryad-like ability. He can move from open tomb to open tomb. He does have Wraithly Mien instead of Ephemeral Mien, and this means he has the incorporeal ability whenever he moves, as well as once per day he can still Misty Step, but again his speed is reduced to 0 for the rest of that turn. He does carry his Throne Shard Sword, as well as a Deadwood Lance. He does have Bone Stitching, so he can use an action to heal an undead creature. And like the rest of his order, he does have Doom Shriek, which is a less powerful version of a Banshee's Wail. But overall, he can still be a really powerful antagonist to use in your games, Or if he is working with undead creatures and they are also evil, a possible wedge that the players can drive between the alliance because he hates undead even though he works with them all the time. Because, again, the Waning Court is just super arrogant. There we go. Another Fey Knight has been knocked out for today. Now, of course, you can find the Barrow Guest, all the creatures I've made for this October and previous Octobers, as well as hundreds of other horror-themed creatures for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, all for free. You can do this at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're interested in the other horror role-playing game projects that I have that are not Dungeons & Dragons, as well as the horror fiction that I write, which includes Grease Paint right over there, you can always go to www.zacharyoshea.com. As always, I really do appreciate your time and your attention, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.